Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I'd like to thank the honourable member for this question. Mr. Speaker, sir, the electrification program under the Bainimarama government, Fiji's first government, has been one of the most empowering programs ever undertaken by any Fijian government, sir. In such a short, Mr. Speaker, sir, and it is a fact, Honourable Gawaka, please listen. Mr. Speaker, sir, never before, and it's a fact, you can actually verify this, if you look at the kilometers of cables, electrical cables that have been laid since 2012 up till now, and if you compare it to any other period in Fijian government history, it's been the fastest at such a huge rate, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, since 2012, we allocated $237.2 million for what we call, in those days, called rural electrification projects. We actually now call it electrification projects because it's not only confined to rural areas. There are some areas, Mr. Speaker, sir, that are peri-urban areas that don't even have electricity. So we're also connecting those people too. And Mr. Speaker, sir, also it's solar paneling too. Of the 237 allocated, Mr. Speaker, sir, $187.4 million in fact has been utilized. Of course, some of it had to be put on hold because of things like COVID, or we had cyclones, we had to redivert funds. And I'll give you a breakdown, Mr. Speaker, sir. In 2012, $9.9 million was actually budgeted for. The amount used, Mr. Speaker, sir, was in fact $10.6 million. In other words, more was used. They divided it and got more because more projects were being done. 2013, $9.9 million was allocated, $9.3 million was used. 2014, $22.8 million was allocated, $21.68 million was used. 2015, $22 million, $12 million was used. 2016, $13.2 million, $13.2 million were actually used. 2016, 18.02 was allocated, used was 17.91 million. 2017, 42 million was allocated. In fact, they went over budget and used 43 million, Mr. Speaker, sir. 2018, 61 million was allocated, 42 million was in fact used. And 2019, 2020, 17 million was allocated, 10 million was used. 2020, 7.8 million was allocated, 4.9 million was used. In 2021, 2022, $10.3 million has been allocated. And of course, Mr. Speaker, sir, to date, we have used $9.6 million. The year is yet to end. Mr. Speaker, sir, we have, of course, as part of that, we've extended the grid, as we have seen, for example, along the King's Road, we extend the grid itself. That's electrification. There's also what we call the solar system projects, which are standalone systems, Mr. Speaker, sir, where people have been given access to solar systems where they're too far away from the grid, so they cannot actually be connected to the grid, and it's done a lot more quicker. Since 2014, sir, the number of schemes that have been actually been approved and in fact being connected, 491 schemes. Mr. Speaker, sir, one of the changes that we have also done now, sir, is before, when we had these grid extensions, EFL would actually do what we call the grid extension, and the house wiring, or what they call the black wire in common term, colloquially speaking, was in fact done by the Department of Energy. In order to bring a lot more synergy now, and to ensure that there is no disconnectivity, the entire contract is now given to EFL. So EFL has to do the grid extension. They also have to do the black wiring, because in some cases what we used to have, the grid will go, but the black wiring was delayed. So people will say, hang on, what's happening? Or in some instances, the black wiring was done, but the grid actually did not come along. So people say, oh, there's a disconnectivity. So in order to avoid the disconnectivity, sir, from the budget, the recent budget, we are now saying that EFL will be given the entire contract. So they'll be responsible both for the grid extension and they'll also be responsible for the black wiring. So the Minister of Infrastructure, Minister of Economy, and other stakeholders can actually go to one organization, which is EFL, and say what is actually happening with this particular project. And that we are seeing, Mr. Speaker, sir, is working out a lot better. The Honourable Member, in fact, had asked for the number of the areas in which will be upgraded, sir. During the next 3 financial years, sir, the Fijian government will be allocating more than $20 million to fund a total of 178 schemes. And these areas, Mr. Speaker, sir, will benefit about 10,000 Fijians living in the various, for example, of Mavua and Navuto in Singatoka, Dratambu, Navuso, and some areas in Votulevu in Nandi, Ambada, Natawarau, Lovu, Tawakumbu, and households without electricity living along Vunda Back Road in Latoka. Balevuto, Moto, Vutusui, and Vakambuli in Ba. Waingumu settlement in Wairuku. Nandele, Nambuna, Toko, Vuni Niurea in Tavua. Navolau, Tavuvatu, and Nanganga in Rakiraki. For northern divisions, areas such as Mungumu, Bulileka, and Korotari in Lambasa. Nambalembale, Matakuenea, Nasavu, Natuvu, and Natua in Savusavu, and Rekeniwai, and Buruto in Tavyuni. So these are the ones, Mr. Speaker, sir, that of course will be connected in the next 3 financial years. Mr. Speaker, sir, government also will ensure that those in the central division that don't have access to electricity in areas such as Korovo, Tailevu, Namosi, Naitasiri, and Serua will also be connected to the grid. I've got a list of all of these villages here that have been connected in the past number of years. And of course, we've invited continuously members of the opposition. If they do want to come to the Situation Room and look at all these projects, they're most welcome to do so. Thank you.